Hello and welcome to our second quarter with another opportunity to learn from a dynamic lady. I am Jacqueline and I am the founder of Discover Love Academy. I'm a professional matchmaker with Discover Love Matches, and I have been truly privileged to bring to you an abundance of experts from all over the place, sharing their wisdom, their insight, and truly unique information that you're not going to get somewhere else. And what I love about this is we're doing it every quarter. So we are on to our second quarter, and we now get to hear something new from Linda. So Linda, will you jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're part of our Discover Love Academy, and we are going to have some very good, juicy things to talk about today.
Well, thanks, Jacqueline. It's always a treat to connect soul to soul with you, so thank you for that. My work in the world is about helping people really discover and own that part of themselves that is wanting to be expressed out into the world. And oftentimes people are doing that in some form or fashion, but it's not a full-throated, so to speak, version of themselves. And so I help you discover what your purpose is in the world. And what I love about what we're doing today, or this whole series that you're doing, is that it's not about how do I want to say this? It's not about what you do. It's about who you are, who you're being, not what you're doing. Right? Mm-hmm. So this beingness that we're exploring is also coming from a heart place. And it really encompasses all of the relationships in our lives, whether they be personal, business, family. It really does. If we are not being our true authentic selves in those moments, then we're shortchanging ourselves, and we're shortchanging the people that we're in relationship with.
Isn't that the truth? And I think so many people shortchange so many aspects of their life that they're missing that opportunity to really dig in deeper. And this is that option for us to hear it from a fresh set of ears and thoughts and perspectives. So as everyone's listening right now, I really want you to open yourself, because this is a new way of thinking. This is a new way to receive knowledge that actually will totally make sense to you as we're talking. That's what I think is really great. We don't always hear your style of information and communication as you talk about the messages right through our hands. I just think that's so fascinating. I love that we hold, as our fists are closed, we have secrets hiding behind there, and then we can open them up and the story comes alive. And that is so powerful.
Right. Well, we carry, it's a map, it's a blueprint that we come into the world with. The lines, the fingerprints, the shape, all of these things are sort of like, if you look at a map and there are different keys to, here's the, the ocean, here's the fort, here's the this. All of those are relatable to the hands. And so giving you that information from a totally unbiased, objective viewpoint is really great, because we know all of this stuff about ourselves. But what has happened is, through the years, we have either forgotten parts of ourselves, diminished parts of ourselves, hid away parts of ourselves, all based on the expectations of what others want from us. And so one of the key lines in the hands is the heart line. And that's the line that is the closest to the base of the fingers. And it runs pretty much across the palm, and it can be straight or curved. But that heart line is really indicative of what is your emotional style. How do you like to love and be loved? And so
I love that, because that's what it's all about, to be loved, and how do you love? So that's huge.
Yeah. There you go. So that's what we'll be talking about a little bit today.
I love it. Well, and your title is, what's your relationship blind spot? Wow. As I'm reading through your bullet points and all the things we're talking about, I'm like, yeah, amen. How much are we doing that? We are blinded. We're missing things. And this is that translation, that code that you have for us that is so powerful.
Well, and so it's that piece of we know what intuitively we know what we want. Um, my job is to kind of really get you to be realistic about what your emotional style is and own it, because a lot of times we just poo-poo it or say, well, that's not me.
Right.
But but it's like the two-sided coin. It's like, okay, so my non-negotiable need, and each heart line has its non-negotiable need, which we talked about last time. That my non-negotiable need is connection, right? Great, we have to honor that. But the flip side of that, the shadow side of that, if we're always wanting to be connected and will do anything to be connected and like me and let me just be a chameleon and morph myself into whatever you need, that is the blind spot around that is, where are you not setting any boundaries? Where are you self-sacrificing? And knowing that that's, it's like the extreme, the too much, too little, just right piece. So yes, I want to be connected, but it has to be on my terms. I have to set boundaries, right?
Exactly.
And so for that particular type of heart line, it really does allow you to go, because what ends up happening is, in a situation, someone asks you to do something and you're so wanting to connect, and that's your nature. You want to nurture, you want to help, you want to support. And someone asks you to do something and you just know, I don't have the time, the energy, but you say yes.
Right. People do that so much and then they regret it. Oh,
and then you beat yourself up about it. And so where can you say, okay, I know my blind spot is setting boundaries. Is this an opportunity for me to say no, and say it from a place of respecting myself, right? Loving myself enough to take care of what I need in order to say no, so that down the road, I'm, in a space where I can say yes joyfully.
Oh, I like that. Say yes joyfully. I mean, that just gave me goosebumps, because I'm always thinking how people forget that you can say no to things because it is your blind spot, it is your block, it is a trigger for you, but also you can say yes when it is in alignment as to what you're supposed to be doing and your purpose fulfillment.
Exactly. So the heart line that sort of has that blind spot is called the big heart. And that line, so if you look at like I said, the first line below the bottom of your base of your fingers, it starts at the edge of the palm and it starts to go over. And what it does is it curves up and it ends under the base of the index finger.
Oh, mine's like right in the middle.
Well, yours is a passionate heart line. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute.
I'm like, it's not even close to in the middle. So that's fascinating.
So the line that curves up but ends up underneath, not direct, it doesn't have to go all the way up to the top, but it ends up somewhere at the base of the index finger. That's the big heart. And so, like I said, their blind spot is really just operating in that self-sacrifice mode, because they really want to, they want people to like them. I think back of that, this is way back in the day, but Sally Field, when she won the Oscar for Norma Ray, and she gets up there and she goes, "You like me, you really like me," and that was because she cared so much about everybody
else. And that's so true. I mean, how many of us at the end of something big actually want to be like, oh, "You like me, you really like me"? I mean, we all want to say it. And here she was on a big stage, but that is, indicative to certain heart lines, is what you're saying. So that's what's really powerful.
And I mean, ultimately, everybody wants a certain amount of validation from others. That's only human. But the blind spot for the big heart is, again, this self-sacrifice piece. And what that translates into is lack of self-care, because they're giving, and part of that is that they don't know how to receive in return, because it's their nature, right?
That's true. I
they,
see a lot of people like that.
how they show love is by nurturing, and so what oftentimes that means for people is, and society totally, makes women especially feel this way. It's like, well, you just need to, be a good girl, do for everybody else, don't toot your own horn, don't, ask for something that's not ladylike or whatever. And so, because this is your style anyway, it just compounds that, and you fall into this trap of, well, how many times, well, you'll buy stuff for friends or kids or nephews and nieces, but you won't necessarily spend it on yourself, right?
True. That's very true. A lot of people forget to do that, and they're depleted.
Right. So where can you, and again, before you are saying yes, where can you take care of yourself, and take care, self-care isn't always just about, bubble baths and chocolates and wine and all of that kind of stuff.
No bonbons required. We don't have to have that.
Yeah.
There's many other ways.
Have to go out and buy a new pair of shoes.
Oh, really? Dang it, girl.
Well, it could be part of your self-care.
Options are available.
But self-care could just be saying no when you're totally, at a place of your limit, with regards to energy, or anything else. And in, in relationships and dating, how often do we say yes because we're, hoping that if I say yes, that'll prove that I'm, what's the word I'm looking for? Agreeable. And if I say no, this might be my only chance. And then, whatever happens around that is a direct result of you not being energetically aligned behind what you're saying to that person, right? So if I say yes and I really don't want to, then it just, if things go south, you were never, honest to begin with. From that, honest with yourself really is ultimately what it's about. So nurturing is great for the big heart, but boundaries and self-care are also important, and that's their blind spot.
That's powerful. Now, how many different types of heart lines are there then? Since obviously mine goes to a different spot, the big heart. How do you break that down to kind of look at your hand? Obviously, it's best when they talk to you directly, sure. But how do you kind of go, okay, which way do I go? How many narrowing downs options do you have?
Right. Well, there's as a rule, there are 4. There's a rare 5th one, which again is really where the heart line and the head line combine together. So it's like one line straight across the palm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't really talk about that one all that much. I mean, well, I mean, I know about it, but
it's like some people are just too much in their head, and we got to balance out the head and heart, so it's kind of a balance.
It's that the heart and the head are merged in some way, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But there are 4 different types, and the other thing is that you can have 2 different ones, right? You can have 2 identical. I have 2 identical.
We talked about this. Each hand can be different. So your prominent hand versus your other hand.
Right. So your dominant hand is the you out in the world, how you kind of interact in an emotional style with your colleagues, with, networking situations, at work or in groups, that kind of thing. And your non-dominant hand is the more inner circle relationships that you deal with. And so sometimes you can have 2 opposites, and it's like, oh, well, one is very oriented towards others, and this one is like very me, right? So where do you balance that?
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
or where are you spending more of your time, right? So if you're always doing for others, and you really are ignoring the part that is me, then that part of you suffers, right?
Right.
So understanding, right? So let's talk about the passionate heart line. So that is the one that, like you said, starts at the edge of the hand and then curves up to under or just a little bit to the outside of the middle finger.
Yeah, like smack dab.
Right. And so the passionate heart line is, that is a me-oriented heart line. The big heart is a you, meaning an other-oriented, but passionate is a me-oriented. And so for this person, you know, their big expression, their emotional style in the world is very much about, I love life. I'm just going for it. This is just amazing, you know, that, and so your passionate heart line is very much serving you in creating this platform for love and expression relationship, right? I mean, you are passionate about it.
Born to do this because it was already imprinted,
right?
And now it's even got deeper.
So it's the kind of thing that allows you, you know, I talk about, you know, certain aspects are personality based, you know, aspects of yourself, and then the fingerprints are the more soul based aspect. So it's sort of like the car where, you know, your heart lines are part of the accoutrements, the accessories of the car, you know, the heated seats, the moonroof, the Bose, you know, right? Those are the things that allow you that you can draw on to then, you know, help when the engine gets turned on, make the ride all that much more sweet.
I like that description. That really helps give a visual to what you're saying. Thank you.
Yeah. So the passionate is the person who, you know, their mantra is, I want what I want when I want it, and I want it now.
Yes.
and so that allows them to really be, like I said, out in the world. And what I, you know, for me, my heart lines are more analytical. And so there's a part of me that envies the passionate, because it's like, I have to think about shit first, you know, where the passion is like, yes, do it. And so, and if, you know, and one of my games is, you know, looking when people are talking on TV and stuff, I look at their hands and see what's going on with their heart lines. Cause it's a pretty easy line to just kind of pick out.
Right.
And it's interesting how many actors and actresses have passionate heart lines. You know, because that allows them to just like dive right into a character and all of that. But the blind spot for the passionate heart line, if they're not honoring that part of their emotional style, then how it shows up is they begin to create drama for themselves or others, or they kind of get into this place of wanting to be the center of attention. So it's like me. It's all about me, you know, because they are not comfortable enough with owning who they are and just knowing that they're enough in that moment.
Exactly.
So they have to like constantly be reminded of it and are seeking that outside validation on a regular basis. And so when, you know, when you start to see that you're, you know, in those situations, or like, you know, if you're out in a group and you're with friends and you're wanting to go to dinner, say, and someone will go, well, where do you want to go? And because you're not owning your, you know, I want what I want part of you, you will go, oh, I don't know, it's okay, whatever. And then what happens is, some will go, well, hey, well, let's go down to that Chinese restaurant. And you go, oh, I don't really want Chinese. And well, how about that Thai place? Yeah, I heard it wasn't that great. Well, let's, blah, blah, and so you eventually, you manipulate the situation
Right.
till it comes full circle to the place that you wanted to go in the first place, but didn't want to say to begin with.
Exactly. And then you're an exhausting person to be around.
Exactly.
But it's so much of getting your voice, like knowing that this is a part, because that's a hard thing with dating. But once you say it, it makes it so much easier for the other person to actually know what's going on.
Right, exactly. And so that's what drives people crazy is because they can see this game, right? They know what's going on, and it's just like, oh my God, well, why didn't you just come out and say it in the first place? And like you said, it's exhausting to be around them because they're not owning that part of themselves that says, this is what I want. And it's okay to say, well, I really would love to go for pizza, but if everybody, is in up for pizza, that's cool. Because now you've recognized the others.
I like that.
But you've stated what you want.
Right.
And so it's when you go, well, I really want to go to pizza, but if you don't, that's okay. And then you go to pizza, or you go to the Thai restaurant, and then you're going, oh my God, this Thai food is just terrible. I wish we could have gone.
Yeah. Then you're not in alignment.
Right. You're bitching and moaning and all of that. So be good with, the releasing of, you've stated your request, you've released what the expectations are around it, and then be in the moment, because that's what the Passionate Heartline is really good for. They're totally be here now,
right,
in the moment. And so if you're going to dwell about what didn't happen, that carries that negative energy forward. So state it, release it, and be in the moment.
Yes, and that's powerful for everybody, but especially with passionate people, because you want to have that people please, but at the same time, you keep running the story through your head that you're like, if I'd spoken up, they might have liked my idea too. So
Exactly.
It's not that you're trying to take away ideas, you're trying to contribute and be a team player, and also not somebody that people have to pull things out of, because that's exhausting. You got to express your passion.
It is. And, and to be fair, this oftentimes, when people with Passion Heartlines are growing up, they often get feedback from family members, teachers, that kind of thing, that they're too much. They're too noisy. They've always got their hand raised. They've, always giving their opinion, and they get the message that, turn it down, dim your light. Why does it always have to be about you? And so that's one of the other things that I see a lot with the Passionate Heartline is they have turned it down so much, but then they fall into that manipulative place, right? Because it's still there. It's just that they're not owning it, right?
Yeah. And I love that you bring that up, because that's something that I think happens for a lot of people, that they're having a message, they want to share it, but they've been told to just zip it quiet. You say too much, you're making it about you. When really sometimes the passionate person is just trying to get the group going and get everybody moving. And those that are uncomfortable often deflect it as, oh, you're being too loud, you're being too needy. But it's often the person is the starting gate person, it feels like. And so I watch that even at my mingles and socials. I can totally tell who's the passionate one, but they need some reinforcement. Otherwise, they're going to fade out pretty quickly, because it is kind of that sudden flame. And then if nobody acknowledges or nurtures it, then it's like, well, I guess that didn't work. So they kind of get back to old habits.
Well, exactly. And I like to call them, they're very much a catalyzer.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Like that.
They get that thing started. And then it's, again, where do you then look at it from this place of how can I, include others? How can I really make this about everyone? Because we've all seen the person who's like, has the idea and then is just like bossing everybody around, right? And that's not good for the dynamic in a relationship either. Nobody wants to be the bossy one.
Exactly. And that's another exhausting level. So you say there's 4. So we did big and we did passion. What are the other ones that you can share a little bit more on? That's powerful.
So those 2 are the curve where the line curves up under the middle or the index finger. The other 2 lines are more straight. And when the line is straight, that that indicates that it takes more of a mental approach, a less emotional approach. The curved line has more emotion to it. So the straight line that goes across and ends pretty much under the index finger, that's the romantic idealist. And I have 2 of these lines.
Nice.
So the non-negotiable need for the romantic idealist is meaning. Right? They are not the type of person who can just sit and chit chat about, Real Housewives of Atlanta or whatever. They're the ones that are talking about bigger philosophical issues and whatever that may be. And so, that is how they show up in the world. The downside, the blind spot for this is because they spend a lot of time in the realm of ideas and thoughts. Emotions are not logical. It's sort of like the Spock aspect of things, where I'm great, thinking about all the practical and logical things in the world, but emotion, that is just too crazy for me. I just don't get it, right? So, and it's less about not understanding emotion. It is more about figuring out when you are overthinking emotion, right? And so that's a challenge for me that I, have worked on my whole life, because it's easy for me to default to, you be in a conversation with somebody and you go home and you'll run it over in your head and you go, so, he said that it was okay. So does that mean it's okay, or does it mean okay?
That's a big difference.
Right. And you just, you're totally up here, as opposed to trusting your gut, you're listening to your heart and going, no, we're good. I'm fine. I don't have to overthink this. Right. That is the blind spot, because you think you can outthink emotion, and the whole part of emotion is, it isn't about thought, it's about feel. Right?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's important. People forget that.
Right. So where can you just allow yourself to feel? Because the other piece is that it's very safe to think about relationships, or, well, that's why it didn't go because blah, blah, blah. And you have this list of, analytical things that, in your mind, why it didn't add up. And there's no, or very little acknowledging of, well, wait a minute, we got to this place and I needed to really get in touch with my emotion about, what this is being asked of me in taking the next step. I didn't want to go there. So I just, shut the heart down and started thinking of all these reasons why it didn't, work out to kind of create this excuse for myself. So It's really easy for this type of heart line to have a blind spot when dialogue starts to open up about emotion, to just go, and spew a lot of words.
Right, right.
Way, right?
Yes.
Which is to say that if you can have a deep conversation, an honest conversation, if both parties are really open to that type of connection, for this heart line, that is like gold, right? Because if they really feel that they're being heard, they will open up, because that's their need. I need meaning. And if you're going to really want to have an honest, meaningful conversation about emotion, and kind of tolerate my ability, or not my tendency to kind of get a little too wordy about stuff.
Yes.
Bring me back. Then there's nothing more powerful than having someone who has the ability to go deep. And
true.
Yeah, so that's a really beautiful part of what they are about, as long as they're not just staying in their head all the time.
Exactly. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. And it is a really important part to just know that some people need a different communication style and acceptance to really give them an opportunity to bloom and to be in their best space, which is being in their strongest heart line. Is that kind of how you would think of it?
Yeah, basically. And so, for example, if someone's inner emotional style is passionate, and the other person's inner emotional style is more this romantic idealist, the passionate has to understand that I can't just be in this person's face, because they need time to process, and which doesn't mean that they don't feel as deeply as the other person. It's just they don't wear their heart on their sleeve like you do. Right?
People sure do wear their heart on their sleeve. Right. I mean, it's so intense. That's very powerful phrasing.
And so to look at it from that standpoint of, oh, this is your style, it doesn't mean that, you hate me or we're not compatible or whatever. It's just, can I look at it from what I say is, 80% of the time, honor who you are, what your style is. But 20% of the time, look at, the opposite of what that passionate heart line is.
I like that.
Right? Pull back. Don't make it all about you. Where can it be about someone else?
Exactly.
Or with
what would be the opposite heart line to the big heart?
The opposite heart line to the big heart is the Hermit.
The Hermit. And is that your fourth?
Yes, the fourth
one. And you've got the opposite of passion. What would that be?
Romantic idealist.
Got it. Okay. That's fascinating.
So the passionate just kind of blurts stuff out, whereas the romantic idealist thinks about what they want to say before they say it.
Right.
So if the romantic idealist could learn to just blurt a few things out more often, and the passionate could learn to think before they open their mouth.
Yes.
Again, 20% that can, avoid some big misunderstandings.
Right. And it is a skill. I mean, it takes time. I've definitely had to learn my balance of communication with the other people. Obviously, it's my profession, so it's something I do all the time. But it is something that every time I'm meeting with clients, I can just tell those that have never really kind of worked on their own muscles of how to know to give, or how to kind of turn it up when they're not super comfortable, but the person they're with needs a little bit more. So it helps in those different layers. So now your fourth one that we were going to talk about next, tell me a little bit. So it's what did you call it?
The Hermit.
Hermit. Okay. I was like, Herm something. What is that called again?
It's also straight. And it goes and ends under the middle finger. So the
okay.
penguin curves up to the middle finger. The hermit just goes
Just
straight.
goes straight and then just stops.
Stops under the middle
Okay.
finger. And so the hermit, their non-negotiable need is freedom. And freedom in the sense that not that they are unwilling to commit. They're more about, I want to really be present for what it is that I choose. I want the freedom to choose for myself, right?
I totally know people like that. That's good.
And so this, they are all about integrity and loyalty, and so for them, they're kind of the get her done kind of mentality, right?
Right.
It's just like, let me do it. I'll change the oil. I'll pick up the dry cleaning. They're very task oriented.
Okay.
And task and outcome oriented, right? So that can be within their, which is another reason why they get very involved in their work, because it's like they want to, make things happen and see results. And so they are also a me-oriented heart line in the sense that, this is what is important to me, and I want to do this. So their blind spot is really not asking for help or,
I can imagine,
revealing their feelings. Right? So it's sort of like, I look at the example of, the cowboy, who's master of their own destiny, and I can do it myself and I don't need anybody or whatever. Or cowgirl for that matter. Right. And so part of where they, because they are very accomplished in a lot of things and can just make stuff happen and all of that, they, the emotion piece just gets in the way.
Right.
And it's not that they don't feel emotions, right? But they're kind of the stoic, right? And so the challenge for them is in some ways a self-care piece as well, because they really need sanctuary time. Because they can't process a lot of emotion, like in your face emotion, they, and this is whether it's a male or female who has this heart line, if things start to get a little heated in a discussion about stuff, they have to learn to say, I understand this is important to you. I need, just 10 minutes to kind of gather my thoughts, because I don't want to just totally shut down around. Right.
Absolutely.
And so they need, they're probably one of the most, I would say one of the most needed, I don't want to say this, their need for alone time is probably greater than any of the other heart lines. I'm
like, I know people like this, so now I want to check out their palms and go, hold on.
So the passionate loves being around people. That's the thing. The big heart loves being around people, just from the standpoint of, it's like you think about the Thanksgiving dinner and all the people that she loves or he loves are there, and so that's a gathering. The romantic idealist, could go either way. They're probably the next most comfortable being alone, with their books in the library. But the hermit, they truly need to recharge their emotional battery, because it can get drained being around people who are, oh gosh, would you please have, I can
imagine.
It's hard for them. It's hard for a lot of people, but it's really hard for them.
Right.
So So their blind spot is really withdrawing and kind of, we call it hiding behind the castle wall, so that they don't have to face that emotion. And then, of course, what happens is you create this distance between you. And it's not that you really wanted to, but if you don't know how to ask for that recharging moment, and saying, I do want to have this discussion, but I just need to kind of, gather my thoughts, regroup, whatever, then it's really easy to just stay in that defensive mode. And I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about this. I don't want to talk about this. And then the whole part of, what relationship is all about, the communication piece, goes out the window.
Right. And that's the thing in those heart lines, being able to understand that that's just part of who they are. It's the good, juicy part. And it's really what makes them authentic. So we want somebody to feel that they can be truly who they are, express themselves, and also feel like they're being heard and honored at their vibration, their level, their message. Then they can grow. And then it's not so personal. Like that's something you talk a lot about, is not making this so personal. When your person says, I kind of need the afternoon off, it doesn't mean they don't like you. It means they need downtime, silent time, and we all need it to different degrees. So that's really powerful.
Right. Well, and for example, so you've got a passionate heartline and a hermit heartline that are in relationship. And, the one person is like, oh my God, so-and-so's having a get together and they're showing this movie and I want to go, and the other person is great, go have a great time, and the other the person who wants to go doesn't feel like, oh, he doesn't care or she doesn't care because they're just kicking me out. It's like, no, they're honoring that I need to be in this environment, and I'm honoring that they want to just kind of stay home and chill.
Right.
And it's a win-win in that situation.
Isn't it true? I love it.
And, conversely, if you come home and you go, oh my God, I told Jim that we were going to come and see the preview of his new documentary. And, we have to be there at about 8:00. Now the person with the hermit heartline is, because part of how they're wired is integrity, and their word is their bond. Their word is their bond indirectly through you, because you made the commitment, right?
Oh, yes, I understand that.
So this person could either go, what the hell? Why didn't you call me and tell me? And they have this huge fight, or the person goes, but is, when are we going to get out of here? So understanding that, either I'm going to go because he or she is good with it, or I really want to go and I would love for my partner to come, but I'll ask first before I commit. Now you've shown respect for that person's emotional style,
Right.
And it just, it creates a much better dynamic of, the give and take in relationship, rather than just running roughshod over what they are, because you're just going, well, I really want to go. And
exactly.
Whatever.
That's huge. I love that. I think it's so important that, as I coach and work with and match people, I always find that, we come with these expectations of what we think the other partner should be doing. Instead, it sounds like what you're sharing, Linda, is so powerful, because we need to stop and say, okay, I'm this way and they're that way. Now, how do we find that common balance where our needs are still being maybe not fully met, but they're being respected. So therefore they become like they are being met, because sometimes somebody messaging or seeing you not as often is because they're probably a hermit, versus a person who likes to go out every night of the week is going to give a different response. That doesn't mean they like you any different. It just means how they recharge and refuel is differently.
And ultimately what this is really about is that it's your responsibility to get your heart's needs met, right?
Amen. I like that.
And take the responsibility for it. So if I need, if my non-negotiable need is meaning, then, I can't just expect other people that are around me to, if that's not their style, which is to say that, you can't encourage someone to have more deeper conversations and stuff. But if that's not the case, then, I'll find a book club where we can talk about, really cool stuff. Or if my non-negotiable need is connection and nurturing, and I'm with somebody who's like, stop, picking up my socks and stop doing all this stuff. Okay, go volunteer at the, Humane Society where you can, take care of all the doggies and stuff. Find ways to nurture and express your heart's needs, because that's what you said earlier is so true. We, expect others to, fulfill those things for us, and it's not their responsibility. First and foremost, we have to take responsibility for getting our needs met.
Exactly. You know what you need, so speak up. So we're almost out of time, and I want to hear some lovely little wrap it up in a bow comments from you. This has been so powerful. I can just feel all of our listeners going, hold on, where am I? What am I? Okay, this is my dominant hand, my non-dominant hand. And it's really just understanding so much deeper. And then there's a level of respect, I feel like, when people get what you're saying. So I'm just so excited for you to share your message. So send our group off with a wonderful last words of wisdom or challenges or excitement for them.
Well, I will share, they can go to my website and download, I have little cheat sheets about each of the hands, so they can kind of get a little bit more information and see what those look like, awesome. The different lines. So it's just go to findyourcreativevoice.com, and then up in the upper right corner is a little, put your name, email, and we'll send you the little cheat sheets for all of the heart.
Yay! Awesome.
And ultimately, for me, it is about honoring who we are. And the other piece that is really starting to become important to me is because I have a 2.5-year-old grandson, is taking this and getting kids to understand who they are from an emotional standpoint, right?
Wow.
And because by the time we get into high school and, beyond, we just, we're not, we get, I don't want to say this, we get our thoughts about relationship or love or whatever are so driven by media and fairy tales and all of these sort of unrealistic models that we have for us. So it's really challenging to be with who we are and recognize what our needs are, because we're always looking outside of ourselves. And so getting to respect children and what their emotional style is really allows them to grow into and express their hearts in a much more honest way.
Right.
That I think a lot of people have been given the opportunity to do. So
I love that. Yes. And that's actually so important because when they're young, their minds are pliable, they're absorbing, and they're figuring it out. Their whole world is an example of the environment that they're in. So if the people around them know how to nurture them in a way that really speaks their heartline truth, then their foundation is going to be so much stronger. I am very excited. So of course, now our listeners can jump on and download the information from you. They can connect with you directly, and then they can also enjoy learning more. I mean, if they've got kids or grandkids and even close family members, how much of an impact this can really have for who they are.
Well, it's, one of the phrases that my mentor, uses, that if it's in your life, it's in your hands. And how we show up. And ultimately, like I said, for me, it's about helping people remember what they knew when they came into this world, but have forgotten. And when you hear that information, and when you really sit with it and bring it into your life, it just creates it has a ripple effect for everybody in your life, for sure.
That's so exciting. Thank you so much, Linda. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to what you have for our third quarter. It's so exciting when the information just keeps growing and compounding on the last time. So if you didn't hear this quarter, make sure you also go back and hear last quarter and get ready for third quarter. We've got that coming up, and it's really about so much more and learning a new way to look at your communication and your partner and understanding your Heartline Foundation. This is huge. So thank you very, very much. We really appreciate you and can't wait for what's next.
All right. Thanks.
Of course. This has been wonderful. And this is what our listeners are craving. So make sure, everybody, you take full advantage and hit replay when you're kind of trying to figure out what you missed. So on to the new quarter soon.